Hello, it's raining outside and very gloomy. So I'm back in the white void, which is not gloomy except on this side because my lighting setup not the best. Now, if you've been around the channel before, you're probably familiar with my magic ball because I talk about this thing maybe kind of too much. This is my leftovers from crochet and weaving. If I have at the end of a project an amount of yarn that is too big to throw away but not really big enough to put back in the stash, it goes into the magic ball. And then I make things out of it, like this top, which I made out of my magic ball. And it is great, and I'm very happy with it. So I'm going to make another one, but it's going to be different to this one because why do the same thing twice? Well, you can do the same thing twice. I've often done the same thing twice. I don't know why I said that. We'll move on. So it's going to be longer. For one, this one finishes just below the hips. This one's going to go maybe down to my knees, maybe a little bit longer. I don't know. This one's going to have a fringe. It's going to have pockets. I don't mean to overpromise, but it's definitely going to have pockets. That is kind of an overpromise. We'll see if I end up with pockets, but I've said it now, so I probably should do pockets. It's going to be a V-neck with a folded collar, which is going to be very fancy and people will be impressed. And I'm doing something different with the warp as well. So this one is just on black cotton so that I had an even shrinkage over the whole piece because the length of the panels was important. That didn't go as planned, but theoretically it could have. And that's the main thing. Mistakes were made. This time I'm using the leftover balls that I have from other projects. So if I have an entire ball from something that's just in the stash, kicking around, not really contributing anything, I've picked out all of that. Well, not all of those. I have quite a large stash and a lot of it is just random leftovers. But I've picked out a sample of those. I've picked out a handful of those and they will form the warp, which means I'm going to get uneven shrinkage, and I'm okay with that for reasons which I will explain. So that is pretty much all I have to say for the introduction. So I'm just going to get through now and start. I'm just going to get through it. Don't know why I said that. I'm just going to get started now and warp up the loom for the first panel of a 4-panel project. 4 long panels that should make something that is either spectacular or terrible, but it will be a thing that exists and nobody will be able to deny that. So here's another one of my world-class fashion design sketches. Ignore this stuff over here, I've just been doing some maths. So the basic design, and it is a basic design, is 4 panels of the same size. They're going to be 40 centimetres wide by 110 centimetres long, although they will be a little bit shorter off the loom and shorter again once I've wet finished. So I'm giving myself some extra length there just to make sure that it is long. So I will sew 2 of those panels together at the front, not all the way down to the bottom, so that I've got like a sassy little opening at the bottom so I can wear a big skirt if I want to. Sometimes I like to wear a big skirt. And the collar will be formed by folding back the corners of those 2 panels, so I won't sew it all the way up to the neckline. I'll sew it to about there, wherever that may be on an actual human to scale, and then have a folded collar. And then the back panels will just be sewn straight all the way down, all the way up, so that I've just got one big rectangle at the back. And then of course pockets, because I want pockets. Did I say about the fringe? I don't think that I did. So the bottom is going to have a fringe. The top is not going to have a fringe because that would be weird. So I will weave the fringe back into the piece on one end of each of these panels and have the fringe loose at the other end. I don't think I'm going to twist it or anything. I think I'm just going to have a loose fringe. We'll see how I feel. We'll see how excited I am about twisting fringe when I've got these panels woven. So here are my 16 colours. I did swap one of them out just before I started because I remembered that it's very stretchy, and with all these different mixed yarns on the warp, I didn't want more of a headache than I absolutely had to have. Then I put them all into a Morse bag, closed my eyes and pulled out 4 at a time for each panel. So I had my eyes closed so I didn't notice that yellow rolling off until I'd already drawn out the purple. Then I roll a 4-sided die to determine which colour comes next in the warp. And that gives me a pleasingly random effect, which looks a little bit like this. Well, it looks exactly like this. So this is the first panel as it was warped up, and here it is coming off the loom. And look, I turned a light on. Well done me. And then the second group, which is a little bit sped up. I'm definitely not this speedy. Look at that tangle. And basically just the same process. Number them 1 to 4, and the warp looked like this. And then it looked like this, coming off the loom. And I didn't turn a light on because I'm slack. And then we've got the third panel, which started with my favourite, or one of my favourites, because it's got all the warm colours in it. And again, same process, just pulling 4 out of the bag. This black and white yarn was an error. I shouldn't have included it. It worked out okay. It was a bit of a headache to work around. It has a lot of weird stretch, and that was a bit of a pain. But it did work, and that's how it looked. So I'm happy that it's in the warp, but it was a bit of a faff. And here it is coming off the loom. And again, I turned a light on. Almost a professional. Last panel is mostly warms, as it turned out. So I've got the yellow, the red, that grey, which is not a warm, and then the other yellow. And that looked like that. And I'm pleased with that one as well. And here it is coming off the loom. Yes, I do wear that top a lot. So here they are after wet finishing. So they've had a wash. You can see the edges are a little bit wobbly, and that's okay because I had different rates of shrinkage for each yarn. You can see also the cotton collage, which is that little blue stripe there, has given me quite a lot of draw in, which I'm going to work around because what am I going to do about it at this point? But that has pulled in a lot more than I expected. It pulled in a lot off the loom, but then once it was wet finished, it really, really pulled in and gave me those wavy edges. But it's fine. We're going to work around it. It is not a problem. So the problem of the different shrinkage in the warp is not so much a problem because it's joined at the shoulder seams, and you can let the hem do whatever the hem wants to do. So the shoulder seams will join up and be straight. This is a side seam. I didn't take a lot of footage of the sewing process because I thought maybe I'd be testing your patience. But this is just to show that the wavy cotton collage did close up, and you just have to wooge it into place and you're all good. So yeah, the different shrink in the warp is not a problem because it just gives you a wavy hem. All the seams at the top are going to be fine. So for once, something that I drafted out actually ended up pretty much matching the draft. So that's exciting and a bit of a red letter day for me. And you're thinking, well, that's great, but we can't really see it because you're too close to the camera. And that is fine. I have you covered. I have footage of me standing around awkwardly in this top. Because what the internet needs is more footage of me standing around awkwardly. I don't know what to do with my body, and I think that's quite apparent. So while you enjoy, or at least look at that, let's talk about this. So I did the joining with black cotton. I thought about trying to find a yarn that kind of blended in a bit better, but with all of these colours and textures, it just wasn't going to be possible to get something that didn't stand out at least somewhere. So I just went with black cotton. It's visible stitches. I don't mind. I'm not upset. It looks handmade. It is handmade. What are the odds? And as you can see, I went for instead of the slash neck, which is what I did last time, I've got the V neck, and that is achieved just by you can just see there, by not sewing to the edges of the panels, not sewing up the middle there, and now I've got a V neck. And I've replicated that shape in the pockets because I am very good at replicating that shape in the pockets, apparently. And it was a last minute decision to do that. And it worked well. One thing I was going to do was put beads around the hem. I was going to have a bead up against the knot all around the hemline. I did a row of 10. I held it up and thought, I really don't like that. So I took them all out and I've just got this loose fringe. The fringe will fray over time. That's okay. I'm kind of deciding if maybe I want to put some fray check or something on it, but also that feels like it would take a long time and I don't know that I can be bothered. And a lot of what I do is determined by what I can be bothered doing. So I'm really pleased with the pockets, which I've blanket stitched on. I love a blanket stitch. I'm not tidy at it, and I can never remember how to get it started. But once I've got it started, I'm good, and then I've got my lovely pockets on. And I'm just so happy with it. It came out really well. There was one mistake, which you might, if you're eagle-eyed, or in fact, if I don't point it out, you probably won't even notice it. So maybe I'll just shut up. No, I will tell you. So you can see here that these edges don't line up. But then again, neither do these edges. And the reason for that is because I measured my panels once they came out of wet finishing, because some of them were narrower, some of them were shorter. They all came out a little bit different because of the yarns used being different. So I measured my panels and the plan was to use the 2 narrower ones as the back panels and the 2 wider ones as the front panels. And that was an excellent plan and it would have worked beautifully if I'd bothered to remember which panels were the narrow ones. Because in the end what I did was go, oh, I like those colours, I'll put them on the front. And this one should have been on the back, and then they would have matched up. But it's okay, it's fine. And I can live with it, and I'm happy with it. And as I said earlier, it all depends on what I can be bothered doing, and I couldn't be bothered unpicking it all and doing it again. So thank you so much for watching. I will be wearing this a lot. We're in spring, but it's quite chilly. I will be wearing this a lot with something underneath it, I think, because my arms, not happy with this whole situation. Maybe I'll make some arm warmers. Oh, maybe I'll make some arm warmers out of the magic ball. Okay, I got to go. I got something to do. You take care of yourself. I think I thank you for watching, but I mean it, so I'll thank you again. I will see you in the next video, and have a lovely rest of your week. Take care. Bye.